Now, the US Supreme Court has delayed its decision on whether to allow massive restrictions on the nation's most widely used abortion pill. The court was set to decide by midnight Wednesday on the fate of Mifepristone, but conservative Justice Samuel Alito pushed it back to Friday in order to give justices more time to consider requests by the pill's manufacturer and the administration of President Joe Biden to block an injunction against it. The White House said it was ready for a long legal battle.
We are prepared for any outcome the Supreme Court may issue, and we are prepared for a long legal fight if necessary. The stakes could not be higher, and we are going to continue to fight. That is the commitment that this president, this administration has made, and we are going to continue to protect women's reproductive rights.
White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre speaking there. Now, the legal analyst and former U.S. federal prosecutor Eric Lisann joins us on the line to talk about this more. Mr. Lisann, thank you very much for joining us. What's your reaction to this?
Well, they've punted the can down the road, as we say in English. In other words, there were some big and very fast decisions that had to be taken by the Supreme Court, and they just didn't have all 9 of them ready to issue a ruling today, so they're giving themselves a few more days until Friday, essentially. And what that means is just for the next few days, the status quo remains in effect, which is that the ruling of the Intermediate Court, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which reports to Justice Alito, stays in effect. And that is a ruling that upheld most but not all of the original trial court's ban on the drug. So what that means is there's not a total ban because the Intermediate Appellate Court said it's not going to be completely banned by the regulator, the Food and Drug Administration, but that there's other restrictions that could be put in place, such as mailings and things like this, which are still very important. So we won't get the Supreme Court's initial take on that now until Friday, and the court does have various options that it can take, but this is all on a very expedited basis.
And so this delay of 2 days, is it likely to favour either the Conservatives or the Liberals on this decision, do you think?
Well, it's really hard to say who it will favor, but what it does indicate is that there's a certain amount of consternation among the 9 justices, that they're not all immediately ready to come to an agreement. And of course, they don't need to all agree, but you have to have 5 of them, generally speaking, depending on the ruling. And so they have a number of procedural options, but the main issue is whether to leave this temporary emergency stay of the order in effect or not to do that. And so some justices, since if there is disagreement, they might be preparing written opinions indicating why that is on both procedural and substantive grounds. So that is what adds complexity to the situation, because it's a radical ruling that they're being asked to review. This sudden revisiting many years later of a Food and Drug Administration scientific ruling is very strange, to say the least. And clearly, at least some of the judges seem to be sympathetic to that, no matter how radical it is, but others will be hostile to it. And that's what is really hard to decipher in terms of what's really going on behind the scenes.
You use the term radical to describe it. Is there any legal basis for this injunction, or is it purely ideological?
Well, it doesn't seem like there's a legal basis, but who decides whether it's a legal basis? It's these judges. It so happens that all of the judges that have ruled on it so far are Trump appointees. The judge initially, Kaczmarek in Amarillo, Texas, was selected to hear the case because of his political leanings. The majority 2 judges on the Fifth Circuit were Trump appointees. And of course, we have this infusion of 3 Trump appointees on the court now that drive the court, and overall there's a 6-3 Republican to Democratic majority. So there's no denying that there's a strong political aspect, but they have couched it in legal terms. We have this notion in American law of standing, who can even bring the case, which is number 1. And then this number 2, there's this issue of the limitations period. How long after an agency has ruled can a case be brought. So and then of course the notion of substituting a judge's scientific opinion for that of experts. So these are truly radical notions. Whether the Supreme Court in any way wants to bless them is the issue. Probably not all 9 justices would be willing to bless them, but there are some that, because of their history in supporting anything that limits the ability to get an abortion, are going to be sympathetic, and those are the forces that are at play here.
Okay, Mr. Lisann, excellent to get your thoughts there on this matter. Eric Lisann, legal analyst and former U.S. federal prosecutor, joining us from Washington there.